All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. We do have this recorded so that people can watch this if they weren't able to join us, because I know how busy teacher schedules are. So thank you for joining us today for the GradeCam 101 session. I am Kate Pyland, and I am a customer success specialist with GradeCam. I've worked with GradeCam in a variety of ways, as well as being a previous user of GradeCam when I was an instructional and technology coach. I am running solo today, so if you have any issues, that questions or whatever, I will run back and monitor the chat as needed. April, just reaching out is right now. Yes, you will be able to access the recording on the exact same link. I don't believe it'll ask you to register again, but that's the only thing that might happen. So yes, you can hop out if you need to, because I know how schedules go. Sometimes also with us on these recordings, we have Busy with us, who's a customer support specialist, as well as Katie, who is our director of customer experience. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead and start running. So couple things, we are going to highlight just some of the new navigation features. If you haven't been in GradeCam recently, or if you've been in, but you're just not quite sure about the new navigation, we do want to highlight some of those things that kind of have come out in the last year, or excuse me, last probably 4 to 6 months, just kind of depending on when you were in there last. We do have a new navigation and homepage that is right there, making it very easy for you guys to navigate. What are those tasks that you need to do right away? So if you log into GradeCam, if you're a previous user, this is new, obviously, to you, but you can click on View Assignments, and you're straight into all your existing assignments. Nothing is lost. We just changed that first page that you land on. Along with that as well, as you'll notice, we have the sidebar navigation. And that's probably one of my favorite things, is because as I navigate through and I go into an assignment and I go into reports, just when I want to easily navigate back out, I can use that sidebar because that stays consistent throughout the program. So it just helps me from getting a little bit lost. The home will always take you back to the test cards right here. As well as that, there's some other updates that we've done, such as working with your existing LMS. If you're a Canvas or Schoology, that's something that can be set up as a school and district account. If you use Google Classroom, whether you're a single teacher or a school and district account, you can also share assignments straight to the Google Classroom if you're using the student portal. There are some additional online functions as well. We're not going to touch on so much of those today, just because we're going to talk about the scanning functionality of GradeCam, but they are some great features and functions right there that you can click on them. These take you straight out to support documents, so that if you have questions, you can. Yeah. Awesome. So today we are going to be creating a multiple question assignment for scanning. We'll kind of do a walkthrough step by step, just kind of how you create it, how you get started. I'll give you some pro tips, as well as extra credit that if you have already done the step by step, you would like to take it further, what can you do? Those are the resources that are available to you. Keep in mind that these resources on this presentation will be available to you after the webinar, so don't worry about having to write everything down. You will still have access to this presentation as well as the recording. So I'm going to jump right over to GradeCam. Before I go there, I'll jump here so you guys can see. We do have the links along here on the side that take you to support, as well as in-app tutorials, but we're going to jump right into creating that multiple question assignment within GradeCam and how you can create your form. Go over to GradeCam. So once I'm in GradeCam, you can access the presentation or access to create a new assignment by clicking on the new assignment or create assignment from here. Typically, you're going to probably create a multiple question assignment, as this matches and can be customized to match a majority of your curricular needs. So we'll click on that. Go ahead and add a title to this, but I'm just going to call mine Let's Practice Today. I would encourage you that if you start using GradeCam quite a bit, you might want to come up with a naming convention, such as Chapter 1, Unit 2, and then giving it a topic here. That just makes it a little easier when you're searching, because we have a wonderful search functionality that if you start building in that naming convention, it makes it much easier to locate it, when you're looking back at this in the spring and coming back to the fall. You can adjust the questions up to 1,000, but we're just going to make it 5 questions today, just to keep it pretty simple. Go ahead and click save, and it'll pop you right into the GradeCam key. So at the bare minimum, when you're creating an assignment, you just would click on the bubbles to select the correct response. That's not making any changes at all to the type of question, and it may match something very similar to you already have. Just by default, GradeCam comes in with these multiple choice questions, but you can always adjust that, and I'm going to show you. But at bare minimum, if you're just putting in the first key and you're just doing a very simple exit ticket, you can do 5 questions. They all have A through E as the responses, and you give us the correct answer, and what should that be? To generate your forms from here, you would click on the forms icon, and this would then be printed on plain paper. Now, if you're doing something very similar to what I have going on here, let me make this slightly larger just so you can see that. And again, maybe every week as an exit ticket, I always ask 5 questions and it's A through E. You can actually take this form and use the generic one if you would like so that students fill in their own ID, or you can also create a compatible key and choose one specific to a class and then laminate them and reuse them over and over again. This makes it specific for the student. So there's just different ways of thinking about how you could use that form. I've even seen teachers take these assignments. If they, like I said, they always ask 5 questions and they have them clear tape them into their agenda, and they always just pull that out, mark it with a dry erase marker, put them under the scanner, scan, you're done, you get the response right away, and you're not having to worry about wasting paper. So a couple different ways of thinking about how you can use that form. So very easily, if I was actually putting those responses in, I would click on the responses and I'd scan in those forms that I just printed. I have a document camera over here by me today, but I could also use the webcam in front of me if I had that camera up. So I'm going to go back because we don't always have a multiple choice question, and we typically want to think about what other types of questions can we use. I do want to show you how to edit those questions. So in our resources, if you're going to go back to this is editing that multiple question assignment and changing our question types. And this is my favorite thing to do because I'm that person that doesn't want to do just your traditional multiple choice. So we're going to go into edit. We're going to change the question type. I'm going to talk about the different kinds of question options you have, and then we're going to generate those forms again so you could see how they change. I'm going to go over here to a practice assignment that I have. On my practice assignment, it's just a very simplistic quiz just to make it kind of interesting. And I have adjusted to have different question types. So we're going to walk through how you can change those different questions. So the first one is a true false key. So to edit, you can check the box next to the number, and then you can click edit. Now, I do want to note that as long as you do not have any student responses collected in here, so if I had already made some scans, it won't let me edit the question type. And that's because it's not fair to a student to have them graded on a multiple choice, but then you change it to a true and false. So you're not able to edit if you've already collected responses. However, if you just answered with the wrong response, you can make that change to your key if you already have responses in there. What's great about that is it just regrades everything. You don't have to rescan it. But just know that you can't change the question type unless you have no responses in here. So under my responses, you see I do not have any student responses. So I'm going to go back to my key, check the box, and click edit. This opens the question editor, and under type, where it says multiple choice, this is where I can select to change my question types that I have available. There is auto-graded questions and teacher-graded questions. The auto-graded questions are ones that you provide an answer to that GradeCam can automatically grade. This helps to save you time so that grading gets done and you can focus on the other questions. The teacher-graded questions are the pieces that are provided by response or graded by you as a teacher based on a performance task, on a rubric scale, and it may be everything from all the way correct to all the way wrong and anything in between. So that's why it is a teacher-graded piece, because there's some pieces that you have to evaluate within that based on performance. We're going to change the first one to true false. So I just click on true false. You can see that it adjusts it from there, and then I give an answer. You can adjust points if needed, if you want to give partial credit or you want to do any additional weighting, and you can always add standards. So you can add standards to all of your question types. That way you can look at those reports later that address standards using different question types and different types of performance requirements from the student. I'm going to go back and click on next. This one we're going to leave as a multiple choice, but just know that the multiple choice questions are fully customizable. So I'm going to make this ABCD, but in other cases, if I wanted to change this to JKLM, I could do that. I could do any random letters, numbers that I would like to in that combination. But today we're just going to leave it as ABCD. For this response, we're going to mark it as B. You can also add additional responses. So if they were supposed to select B and C, or they get 2 points. If they select C or C, they get 1 point. A lot of options there of what you can do. My next question type, we're going to get a little bit into some numeric responses. This could be years, this could be a calculation, this could be a time, it could be money, a lot of different things that you can think there, but it's going to go into number. You can either use number grid or numeric. They're just slightly different in how they're displayed on your forms. A number grid will provide those columns of grids that students would then bubble in order to be scanned. Numeric is just going to provide like a field that students would handwrite a response, which would then be scanned and graded. So they both collect a number response. They just are treated slightly different on the form. So if you're using the form, but you really need to have that number grid to match another testing environment that you have to get students familiar, you can use a number grid, and then you can adjust the columns from there. What symbols are shown, what do you want to have? I'm going to adjust my columns up to 4, and I'm going to change my answer or add my answer here to 2000. So it's really important on the auto-graded questions that you do provide an answer so that GradeCam knows how to grade it. Go to my next one. From here, I'm now going to get into a fill in the blank, which is fairly similar to numeric in that it provides just a line for students to handwrite a response in. But the difference between numeric and fill in the blank is numeric is going to collect numbers, not letters. Fill in the blank is alphanumeric. So where numeric would be 2000, fill in the blank may be 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, a combination of letters and characters up to 30 characters. So I'm going to hit fill in the blank. We're going to add a answer, and this one's going to be Wakanda. I can also add a custom question header. I can adjust the points, so maybe this has a little bit more weight to it if I need to. And again, you can add those standards. I'm going to go to my last one here, and this is where I'm going to jump down to teacher graded items because there is more open response types questions out there. Rubric points is going to provide it kind of like a scale. It looks fairly similar to the multiple choice. The big difference here is the teacher fills in that point. So maybe the student is also supposed to turn in their note sheet, or they have to turn in an additional presentation or a picture that is then graded, and the teacher calculates that to be included with the score for the assignment that's collected in GradeCam. Open response provides an area for students to handwrite, draw, demonstrate, do whatever in an area for students that like to show their understanding. This is my favorite question type. As a former art teacher, this is where I would spend my time because I wanted students to demonstrate their drawing or demonstrate a particular task or skill. So we're going to change this to the open response. This is graded on a scale. So how am I going to grade it? How am I going to assign points? For it, I'm going to make it down to 0, 1, 2. So maybe there's a couple criterion that I'm looking for as I get those responses. And I want to give them a little bit more room. Right now, we're just at 1. I want to give them up to 4. You can leave this blank if you would like to, if they're drawing. You can provide line separators if they need to have a little bit of that cleanliness piece there. If you want to have them draw a chart or a graph, you can change it to a grid. And we also have a compact grid if you need to add just a little bit more detail to it. So a lot of different options there when you are collecting these open responses. So you can see now that I've adjusted all the different types of questions and edited those questions. So now how does my scan form look now? You still go through the same process of generating a form. Before, when I had just the multiple choice, it was located up here at the top. Now I have multiple choice. There's that number grid. This is fill in the blank. And this one here is open response. So you can see that the form displays slightly different than just doing a multiple choice. Again, you still have the option to do compatible keys. Maybe you always structure your assignments this way. Or if you want to do specific opposed to having students fill in their own ID. So when is it nice to have the student specific versus ID? I like to keep the generic or using the ID if I need to take this test down to the copier and print off 100 sheets. And I have 100 sheets of it that we're always going to view. It doesn't matter who grabs what. But I have other teachers that like to use these specific because they use this as kind of like an attendance check to see who still needs to complete the form. Because as you scan it in, it is automatically timed to that specific student right here at the top. I would just click generate and print on regular pieces of paper. This is still scanned in the same way. So if I come back over to GradeCam, I already have a few tests here for me so that you can see how these will scan. I click on my responses to make sure I'm on the responses tab to start collecting. And then I just place it under my document camera, or I place it in using my mobile device, or I use it, hold it in front of me at the webcam. I scan those quickly and the GradeCam will grade it. The nice thing again is that remember, GradeCam can grade some of those questions that you provided a response or an answer to. So I've clicked on Ella. It will grade these first ones, but I need to grade number 5. So always remember that you may have some questions that you would want to come back and review that you can then grade for students in order to collect those responses. This depends on how you want to collect that information. So let me hop back over to my presentation super fast just to make sure I covered everything. So we talked about editing those question types. Remember, you can edit as long as there are no student responses, you can edit that question type. So some pro tips for you today to take away. As you're creating your assignment, remember to use a NIMI convention. This makes it much easier to search. And if you're sharing that assignment, everybody kind of knows what they're looking for. Generic versus student. Generic is great if you need to go down and make 100 copies, and then students would fill in their IDs for themselves. You want student specific, just know that each student would have their own assignment with their name on the top. Auto-graded versus teacher-graded. Auto-graded, you just need to provide an answer. GradeCam will grade it for you. Teacher-graded is you get to come back and grade that based on the response or the student performance or whatever task is being demonstrated. When can I change the key? You can change the answer even if you have responses, but you can't change the question type or that style if you already have responses in there. So kind of keep that in mind if you're making them. But good tip for you is if you have the question, but you've already collected responses, but you want to use that test again, clone the assignment or copy it. That makes it really quick and easy. So if you structure that assignment exactly how you want to use it, and you use that structure often, you can easily clone it and reuse. Some extra credit things for you guys to check out as you're wrapping up is don't forget about sharing assignments. If you're a part of a school account, divide and conquer a unit. One teacher can create the assignments or formative assessments for a unit 1, or another one may do a unit 2. You share, and then you don't have to do as much of the work. You only had to focus on one unit, but you get the benefit of that formative assessment data when you share the assignments. It's also great for PLC conversations. We talked about partial credit scoring, that if you need to use just half a point or maybe something's worth 2 points, you can look into those. Don't forget about renumbering if you need to customize it to match a certain key, and you can always add standards. And I love that I can go back and add standards. So that's primarily most of the presentation. I just see a question come in, so I want to make sure I tell you it. Can we speak a little bit about bulk scanning feature? That is an awesome thing to bring up, Candace, and I should add that link here. So that's something that I'll have to definitely address. So with that, with the bulk scanning, what she is talking about, say that you have all these scanned papers, and I don't have a lot, I can't pick them up. I have all these scanned papers, but it's like 500 or maybe it's 100, and I don't want to stand here and scan them. That goes pretty fast, but you can take these down to your school copier / fax machine, not fax, but scanner that can be emailed to you. And then you can bulk import those files. So if I take this particular file, I take it down to my copier, run them all through so it scans them, and then email it to myself or however you save those. You do have the option right here up in the corner. I'm going to move this so it just doesn't, I just don't want it to scan. Click on this file upload. You take that file from your email or wherever you saved it. You can select or you can drag it over, and then it'll go through and grade those very quickly. So you don't have to stand under the scanner if you don't want to, and it scans it in just like you had stood under the scanner and done it. So that's great if you have like 100 tests that you just don't want to stand there and do. It works through each one of those and uploads them, grades them, all of that resources there. So thank you, Candace, for pointing that out, because that is a wonderful feature of the scanning. Kind of scanning, but kind of not. So any other questions? Feel free to post those into the chat. I am going to stop the recording because I've gone through most of the information. And that way, if you need to unmute yourself, you don't feel like you have to be on camera. So I'm going to stop my recording. But I am going to